let's get back to the panel. Seth Waxman, you're a former federal prosecutor. You've looked through this document. All of us have read the document by now. How strong of a case does New York State have against the president and his children?
Well, it seems very strong, but let's be clear at the outset that there's a difference between a civil case and a criminal case. So at the end of this civil case that the AG has brought, the worst thing that can happen to Mr. Trump and his family is a monetary fine. So no one can go to jail for this lawsuit. On the other hand, as I've understood it, there have been referrals made to the Federal Election Campaign Commission and the IRS. When Donald Trump, the president, signed this tax form that's associated with charitable foundations, a 501c3, he signed and said that all the money being brought in was going to be used for charitable purposes. If that is a lie, that is perjury. That can be a federal crime. In addition, if monies are taken from donors under the auspices that it's going to go for some charitable purpose and it's diverted to someone's personal bank account to their personal interests, be it political campaigns, dressing up a golf club or whatever, that can be fraud. And that can be, under the federal law, wire fraud, which is a 20-year criminal penalty in jail at maximum. So for me, what's the most concerning about this, if I'm the president, isn't that someday he might have to pay some monetary fines. I don't know that he much cares about that at the end of the day. My concern, if I'm him and his lawyers, is that there could be a criminal referral to a U.S. attorney's office, and now he's back in the soup of yet another criminal investigation.
Yeah, it's a significant allegation made by the New York State Attorney General, Margaret, that they used this charity for political purposes in the days leading up to the Iowa caucuses, and that they've got text messages here from the then Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski explaining what should be done with this money that's being raised. Charitable foundations are not supposed to be involved in politics.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Seth is certainly right that if this were to take on some sort of a criminal element or aspect on a parallel track, it would obviously be a huge story at that point. But there is a softer impact to this right now that is potentially real also, and that is that it goes to the credibility and the trustworthiness of the Trump organization in general and charitable claims. And don't forget, the president is currently engaged not just in midterm campaigning, but has a re-election campaign that has been up and running for some time. And among some segments of his base or supporters, the ability to trust his word and to know that when he says he's trying to help coal miners, that he's trying to help, recovering, veterans who are home and looking for jobs, all of that matters too. So there's sort of this parallel track of potential impacts, and one deals with the unknown, something we haven't seen yet, is whether there's going to be a criminal aspect. But the other, it just goes to this question of trust and credibility.
And the president, in his tweets a couple times, April, he said, "I won't settle this case." Right. He said the former New York Attorney General Schneiderman, he resigned his office in disgrace, and his disciples brought it when we would not settle. He has settled cases in the past after declaring he won't settle. Yeah. Trump University case, for example, he repeatedly said he wouldn't settle. He wound up settling.
But there are also a lot of other cases that he hasn't settled out of court. People that worked for him building his buildings or building whatever he's built, and he's tied them up in court forever. But the bottom line is, you don't want to hear a president of the United States saying, I'm not going to settle something that could have wire fraud implications or credibility implications. This is the President of the United States of America. Every American basically has to follow the rule of law, follow the patterns of justice, and settle something. And for him to say, I'm not going to settle, it doesn't bode well. If anything, you would want to kind of work this out. But one thing that really sticks out about this case to me, just like what's happening with Mueller, they're following the trail of money. There are trails of money everywhere that's pointing to the family. And it just screams to me. All of this is about money from a charity that's gone to different places that weren't supposed to happen. And then you have what's happening over here with Mueller. They're pulling records and pulling computers, trying to find out the trail of money, because that all leads to whatever the end case is, if I'm correct.
It's just another legal headache also for the president. The Mueller investigation.
But it's about money.
The Michael Cohen investigation, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. There's a lot of legal stuff going on right now that the President of the United States has to worry about. Guys,
on his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to the President
of the United States. Yes. Not necessarily a nice birthday present from New York State for the President.